Good evening, everyone. Episode 39, No Limits, Mike and Stace.
Happy Shmonday.
It is Monday, which means it's after 6 p.m. on Sunday. Getting ready for work on Monday.
Another fabulous work week ahead of us.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, we're in the process, just to give everybody a heads up, we are in the process of rebranding our podcast. There's a lot of no limits out there. So we're going to change it up a little bit. Stace has been working on a new logo for us.
Yep.
The one you chose, I like it.
Great.
A lot.
Great.
So that'll be cool. We'll have to figure out how to get everything changed on our social media, on Podbean and Facebook and all that. So I have to figure that out. I think I figured out the Podbean part of it. Facebook seems to be pretty simple about those things.
Yeah, it's pretty user-friendly.
So we'll work on that over the next couple of weeks, and then we will have a new name for our podcast.
Yeah, it'll be easier to look up.
Yep, definitely. So,
but it'll still be us chatting. So essentially the same podcast, just a fresh rebrand.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to do that. So we'll be working on that. Didn't have time to do any research about dead bodies on the side of roads that we traveled. So I was going to try and look that up for our next podcast. I didn't have time. Like I said, I can't do that from a work computer, so just didn't get to it. So I'll try and get around to it at some point and do some investigating of that, so we can, as you like to say, circle back.
Yep.
What was it? Punchki, Pitchki?
Or whatever it is, we call it Punchki.
What was your name?
Is it
Putski? No,
Saki? Wasn't it pronounced because wasn't it like Pasaki or something? It was pronounced like Saki.
Like
but
Punchki is the donut that we like.
Yes, it is.
Putski. So this is going to take you back in wrestling. Do you remember the time of Jimmy Superfly Snuka?
It sounds familiar. I didn't watch it a whole lot when I was growing up.
So there was Jimmy Superfly Snuka, Don Morocco, and those two were a pretty good rivalry. But also there was a rivalry with Ivan Putski. Who else did he have a rivalry? I can't remember. But he was the Polish Hammer is what they called him. He was a short little, very muscular guy. And his finishing move was he's put his hands together like a hammer and hit you in the freaking chest.
Oh my gosh.
Polish Hammer.
Yep.
But he was, I don't know, he was like 5'3". He was a very short man.
Tiny guy.
Mm-hmm. But he was big. He was very large.
Tiny but mighty.
Yes, indeed. So that's back in the day of wrestling.
That's great.
That was when they tried to convince you that it was all real.
Mm-hmm. Back in the day, the good old days.
Now,
it's quite obvious.
It's sports entertainment now. It's not even wrestling.
Nope.
It's sports entertainment. So, but anyhow. So, what are we talking about on this Shmonday?
I'll let you introduce the topic.
Me?
You.
Why me?
You can introduce the topic.
So tonight we're going to talk about people wasting their lives. Part of it will be, the opioid epidemic that's going on right now. Too many young people are, getting hooked on painkillers, and it is probably very relevant, or I guess people can relate that listen to our podcast. I'm sure that somebody knows somebody that's started out with painkillers and then moved on to something else.
Yeah.
As a result, there's two shows that if you haven't watched them, you look them up right before this to get the names of them. But if you're interested at all in how all of this started, and it's specific to Oxy, so Oxycontin, oxycodone, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the one with Michael Keaton in it. Dope Sick?
Dope Sick, yes.
That was, and which platform was that on? Netflix or Hulu?
Both, I think. I actually think that it was on both.
But that was, it was pretty shocking to watch it.
Very eye-opening.
Mm-hmm. To see how it was marketed. So Oxycontin was marketed as a non-addictive painkiller, the first non-addictive painkiller.
Yeah. And if anybody works in a doctor's office, I mean, you know what the drug reps, what they do. They come in and they essentially sell their pills. And that's what they did with that.
Yeah, they were, it's amazing. It's very hard to describe how this empire really was built, because you have these naive salespeople that believe.
Sure. Well, and a lot of them were younger people that, fresh out of college, young people. They made a ton of money selling this.
And then that's the thing, they start making the money.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of them, their morals go out the door.
Well, as with anything that typically starts bringing in more money, then all you see is the money. And as it says, the money is the root of all evil.
And then the ones that did have morals, they were let go. Because
I wonder if there were any whistleblowers. We should have done some research on that.
Well, if there was a whistleblower, and you know what happens to whistleblowers.
That's what I'm saying.
But they even had the FDA in their pocket.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, at one point it came out because there are these programs about it, and now we're all being educated on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's pretty scary because that's a typical medicine that, like, even when I had my tonsils out, they gave me liquid. And I mean, this was shortly thereafter we watched that program, and I was scared to death to take it. I was so afraid to take it because I didn't want to become addicted. So I actually took less than what they prescribed, they prescribed me for. Like, if it was like, I don't even remember because it was liquid, but I would take like half.
Yeah, it was.
I'm like, I'm not becoming addicted to this shit.
Well, this is how addicting it is. So, Dad was prescribed it for his back.
Mm-hmm.
And he was prescribed it every 4 hours. For years.
Mm-hmm.
And years and years.
Yeah.
But he was so worried about becoming addicted to it, he decided he would only take it when he needed it.
Sure.
So he didn't take it every 4 hours. He actually got in trouble. Oddly enough, he got in trouble at the doctor's one time because he went in and did a piss test and he didn't have any oxy in the system.
That's something.
And they were like, what are you doing with it?
Right.
They thought he was selling it or something.
Uh-huh.
Because he didn't have it in the system because, he was supposed to take it every 4 hours.
Right.
So then he just started making sure every time he went to the doctor, he'd take a little oxy before he went to the doctor.
Play the game.
But he only take it when he needed it. So there were times where he would go, a couple of days without taking anything because his back wasn't bothering him to that point.
Sure.
So, he didn't take it. And then at one point in time, they switched insurances. So they went from Highmark to UPMC, and UPMC was like, well, we're not going to pay for that. We're going to put you on morphine instead.
Yikes.
And he went through withdrawals of Oxy. He didn't take Oxy for days and was fine.
Yep.
But as soon as he was off of it completely,
right,
he went through withdrawals.
Wow.
Bad withdrawals of it.
And that's speaking volumes, considering he didn't even take it every day, and he only literally took it as needed.
Mm-hmm.
Therein lies the problem, I think, that creates this epidemic, because the people are taking it every 4 hours.
Yep. That's how addictive it is. And if you watch Dope Sick, the other one's called Painkiller.
Painkiller. Yep. It's on one of the platforms as well. I think because I remember we watched one on one.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say we watched one on Netflix, then we watched the other one on Hulu. But I think probably if you just look it up on either platform, it'll come up.
Mm-hmm. I prefer the one with Michael Keaton, Dope Sick, over Painkiller. Painkiller had Tim Riggins in it.
Yep.
Tim Riggins,
Taylor Kitsch. Kid's a hell of an actor.
He is. He also played Waco, Texas.
Oh my gosh.
What the fuck was his name?
His name was David something. I think that you're right.
Shit, yeah. Look it up because it's going to bother the hell out of me. Because he was the next Messiah. That crazy fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. That goes back to the cults.
Mm-hmm.
Kirsch. David Kirsch. Koresh.
Yes, David Koresh. Yeah. But Tim Riggins, we always call him Tim Riggins because
that's what I think, because I think he's literally like in his 40s too, so he's not really that far from our ages. But I call him a kid because I still remember him as that.
Friday Night Lights. If you never watched the show Friday Night Lights, watch the show Friday Night Lights.
Yeah,
it's good.
The
Tim
cast
Riggins,
is great.
Is in there. So Taylor Kitsch is in there. But that's why we call him Tim Riggins. But he did a very good job in Painkiller. He did a very good job as David Koresh.
Yeah.
But I just preferred Dope Sick. And maybe it was because it was the first one that we watched.
Yeah. Well, and I mean,
I think it was more educational
for sure
as well.
And Michael Keaton from Pittsburgh.
He's a Pittsburgh classic.
Yep.
So
he's from here and that. He too is a hell of an actor.
He is. He's very versatile.
Yes.
Did you ever see him, or did you ever see the movie? This would be something that your mom and dad would have watched.
Okay.
Mr. Mom.
Yeah, I think I did see that one.
That was freaking. It
was from like the 80s or something.
Yes.
I definitely would have watched that with Mom.
It was freaking hilarious. Because he gets laid off. So his wife goes to work, and
he ends up being a stay-at-home dad.
Yep, he becomes a stay-at-home dad, and oh my gosh, that's one of those movies though. Because we've talked about this, at various times about movies where the movie was so good, but you don't want to watch it again because it might not be as good as what you remember.
Yeah.
So you don't watch it.
You just keep the memory.
Yep. So that's
yeah.
Oh, then where was he?
That's great.
He was in
Jack Frost.
Jack Frost. Yep.
Holiday movie. That's a good one.
He was the OG Batman. Well, in movies.
Yeah.
I guess.
He's a classic, man. He's a classic.
He is. He's a good actor. He's a real good actor. But he does a great job. So in Dope Sick, he's a doctor. He's a local physician.
Mm-hmm.
And he believes the drug reps and all of that. So he starts prescribing the oxy to people. And then at one point in time, he gets hurt. I don't remember what happened.
Didn't this take place? Was it like in a West Virginia coal town?
Yes.
Or something? I mean, like a really small town, and he had like a small, yes, you're right, like a small practice. This was before all the big, UPMC, Highmark, what have you, came in and just kind of took over and took that small town one-on-one doctor. They took that away. But this goes back to he was that. He knew all of his patients. He knew their families. He cared. And I'm not saying that they don't now. I mean, doctors still care, but this was different.
Yeah, he delivered a lot of the patients that he was treating. He delivered them.
Yeah,
babies.
This is true.
Because it was back in that time where the local doctor did everything essentially.
Yep. And they would get injured like on the job because they worked in the coal mines. There was a lot of back injuries.
Yep.
And when this was brought to him, he was like, well, this is going to be great for my patients, especially those that are in pain. And it's not addictive. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. And then, yes, he himself did end up, I don't want to give it away, of course.
Yep.
Well,
he got hurt.
He did. I don't remember exactly what happened, but yes, he ended up taking it himself as well.
Yep. And then we'll just kind of leave it at that.
Leave it at that.
Don't tell any more. So you can watch it. It's a series.
I think it was like 8 or 10 episodes.
Yeah, something like that.
But I mean, it's well worth the watch.
I want to say that one was on Hulu. For some reason, I'm thinking that one was on Hulu.
You're probably right.
But
regardless,
But it's really, it's sad to see, and they do touch on this in the show, but in both of the shows, and then everything we've seen in any documentary about it, on the news, in real life, it seems as though if you get addicted to oxy, your next step is heroin.
Yeah.
And
the sad thing of it is that's what's so scary is that they literally, they're giving this to people like after surgery. Mm-hmm. You go in there, my back hurts. Anybody can get this pill. And then, so it's very scary to think that like anybody can become addicted to this. Mm-hmm. And then it segues into a full-blown addiction where you're not even the person that you were before. And it wasn't even your choice. You literally just went in there for back pain or to have surgery.
Yeah. And that is why, so I have a lot of arthritis in my lower back. And I had 3 choices. Choice 1, do nothing. Choice 2, painkiller. And choice 3 was I had a nerve ablation. What was it? C3, 4, and 5, and S1 on both sides. So I went in, stuck needles in me, burned the end of the nerves. It was supposed to last 1 to 2 years. Originally, they said it was going to be permanent. Mm-hmm. And then, 1 to 2 years. It lasted 5 months. But that 5 months was great because I had zero pain getting up, getting out of the truck. But it only lasts 5 months, and the insurance, they won't pay to have it done again because it's supposed to last at least a year. So I would have to wait a year, and I'm not going to do that again because that was not fun.
Right.
So the other two options: or do nothing, or painkillers. Well, I ain't fucking doing painkillers.
Yeah.
Everything we've watched, everything that we know about it, and no,
Right.
I can't do it. I'll just deal with it. It's very scary because there is no such thing as a non-addictive painkiller.
Well, I think, and the reason being is a painkiller is entirely different than an NSAID. So your Tylenol, Motrin, Aleve, those pills actually, you have a headache. You take a couple of Motrin. The Motrin actually goes to the source of the headache and will take your headache away, right? It takes away, like if you have swelling or muscle aches, and it goes directly to that and it takes away the pain. But a painkiller does nothing for your pain whatsoever.
Nope.
It works in your brain. Mm-hmm. So it kind of tells your brain, you're not in pain. Mm-hmm. Even though you really are, but that's how that works. And I think that that's why since it works with the brain so different, that's why it's so addictive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you don't feel, that it's the funny thing is it's essentially the temporary nerve ablation that I had because I had no pain.
Mm-hmm.
The arthritis was still there, but I had no pain.
Right.
The one thing that I was concerned about with all of that was doing something to fuck it up even more because I wasn't in any pain. And I probably did because I was lifting shit that
you wouldn't have otherwise. You definitely would have been more cautious.
Because I was like, man, this is great.
I feel great. Cartwheels down the street.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that.
I know, I'm just saying.
But, I can lift this now.
Yeah. Life is good.
But, it's essentially, the same thing. But,
yeah. Because when
you just keep taking the painkillers, just keep taking them.
And then you need, as you go on and the longer you take it, right, the more you need, like the higher dosage. So your dosage just keeps getting upped and upped and upped. And then it's not supposed to be a long term, because really you're not even supposed to take Tylenol or Motrin, or you're not even supposed to take that long term. That's just supposed to be like, I pulled my back out, I'm going to take a couple of leave for a couple of days. It's not supposed to be, I'm going to take this every day. None of this is meant to be taken every day. And then you go to the doctors, then they quit prescribing it for you because it's not meant to be long term, but you're already addicted to it. So now it's on a chemical basis as opposed to pain, because you may not even be in pain anymore, but you're so addicted to that medication.
So then you
can't live without it.
Else.
Right. And then therein lies, leads to the addiction.
Heroin's cheaper. Everything we've seen, heroin's cheaper. That's nuts.
And now, I've always told my kids, don't take anything, ever. Because some of that shit you take one time, and you're freaking addicted for life. And then at that point, you're done.
Yeah. And with, everything you buy off the streets, there's no clean drugs.
And then you got to worry about what is laced with the fentanyl.
Yep. Yeah. You have, too many young people dying, wasting their lives away, living on the streets, all kinds of stuff, because of, addictive drugs.
It's sad.
And, sometimes it's not their choice.
Right.
Sometimes it's, through the opioid, and sometimes it is their choice. It is their choice.
They've made the choice.
They do it, and they just continue to do it, and
and then it becomes addictive.
Mm-hmm.
And let's even talk about smoking, for instance. Mm-hmm. Like, smoking is so freaking addictive. And, we know a lot of people that used to smoke. You used to smoke. I used to smoke. I smoked a pack a day for 10 years. And I actually quit. I remember the exact day that I quit, and it was like 17 years ago. Mm-hmm. Every now and again, I still have to fight the urge to not buy a pack of cigarettes. course, the good old $10 or $12 a pack price is like, yeah, I'm good. But that's the thing. Like, stuff is so addictive. Mm-hmm. And for me, I know that it'll be a battle for the rest of my life. Like, and of course, it's not life or death. It's not drugs, so to speak. But kind of, I imagine that in the event that it is something like that, I'm sure that that's probably even more addictive, and it's more of a struggle that you get clean. And it's not as easy as like you just quit smoking and you're not addicted anymore. Okay. Well, physically you're not, but mentally you still want it. So I'm assuming that it's an ongoing battle for the rest of these people's lives that have at one point been addicted. Mm-hmm. To opioids, street drugs, whatever. And it's really sad. Because it's life altering. That kind of addiction is life freaking altering. If not life ending in most cases.
And that's the really unfortunate and sad part of it all. Because people have families and all of that, and then, they do something stupid and make bad decisions, and then,
leave people behind.
Yep. You leave people behind, and you leave, other people left to clean up your mess.
Yeah.
Which, that's...
It's not cool.
No, it's really not. But I think, everybody, that listens to our podcast, and we appreciate, everybody that does listen to our podcast. I think that, you should watch at least one of those two shows, if not both of them, and tell everybody you know.
Yeah, because at one point in time, you yourself or somebody that you know will be addicted or be prescribed one of these drugs.
I remember, I'm so afraid of painkillers. The hardest painkiller I've ever taken would be a Tylenol or Motrin. I've never taken anything else. I had 2 wisdom teeth out at different times. I was prescribed Percocets both times. I didn't feel it.
That upsets my stomach. So
I wouldn't take it because
right.
I'm just afraid.
Don't even want to tempt it.
No.
Yeah.
Because I smoked 22 and a half years. I smoked.
Yep.
Pack and a half a day.
Yep.
I know that I could potentially get addicted to the painkillers.
Sure.
Fairly easily. So I just won't do it.
Yeah.
So it's very unfortunate. And I think a lot of it. And we've talked about this before, and this isn't necessarily regarding painkillers, but doctors in general. It seems like doctors in general have lost the diagnostic part of things. Mm-hmm. They just want to give a pill. Mm-hmm. It's easier to just give a pill and be done with it instead of actually figuring out what's the root cause.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you have to be your own advocate and be like, no, like I'm not going to take a pill. I Googled it.
Jeez, you Google doctor.
And Google doctor told me XYZ. No, seriously.
Yeah. I used to love the show, House. So it was on Fox, and the doctor, he was an asshole. Mm-hmm. He was arrogant. And his whole mission in life was to figure out the diagnosis. Once he figured out the diagnosis, he didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, this is what it is, and he'd move on to the next case.
Sure.
But that type of, and I realized it was a TV show, but that type of mentality, I just don't see it anymore. I don't see,
Well, I wonder too if there are a lot more diagnosis than there were. Like, look at all the crap that we eat that is not natural, right? That is created so many, I don't want to say diseases, but disorders and illnesses, just all kinds of things, like long term. Then you got you got ticks, so you got Lyme's disease, which the autoimmune diseases was the word I was looking for. And that's like a whole umbrella term, because there could be so many symptoms that you have, and it could be any number of the autoimmune diseases. And I feel like they just don't know. There's just so many new things that pop up, including like all the shots that we have gotten or getting. You know, we're putting all this crap into our bodies, and it's wreaking freaking havoc. Mm-hmm. And these doctors are probably having a difficult time figuring out what the heck it even is sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a doctor in this day and age, because you really can't be a doctor, because you're really at the mercy of the insurance companies.
Yeah, that too.
Which is a whole nother episode that we'll need to discuss at some point, because you really are. The insurance companies have way too much power. And like I said, we're not going to get into that, because that's an episode in itself.
Definitely.
There.
Yeah.
But it's funny you mentioned ticks. In the very first episode of House that I watched.
Yeah.
It wasn't the first episode, but it's the first episode that I saw.
Sure.
A teenage kid, it ended up that she had a tick. She was having seizures and everything. And
Lyme's disease. Is that what she ended up having? Something from it.
The tick was still on her.
Oh, dear.
Down in her private area.
Well, you got to be careful, especially if you're in the woods or the tall grass. Remember the time that we were in Gettysburg, and the guy came into the like the front desk, and he was saying something to the woman in the front, because he was out in the field right beside the hotel, and the grass is, good grief, the grass comes up to my chin. I mean, they don't, because it's a field, right? And he wasn't from PA. Like those of us in PA, come on, you know better. You don't be traipsing around in there. And then if you are, make sure that you check yourself. And didn't he have like numerous ticks on him?
He did.
And he had no idea. It's like, you gotta be careful.
In this episode, the boyfriend was sneaking into the girl's house. Mm-hmm. He went through the tall grass. Mm-hmm. It got on his pant leg.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
So, but anyhow.
Oh, my word.
So, I wonder if, remember when we were kids, there was, what was it, Dare? What was it? When they would talk to you about drugs, there was actually...
Oh, yes.
Was it there?
I don't know, but that sounds familiar to me.
I don't know if that's still a thing.
I really doubt it, because I don't remember my kids learning about that.
Oh, okay. Well, instead of having fucking commercials on TV about all these different drugs...
That you really can't walk into your doctor's office and be like, I saw this for eczema. I think you should prescribe it to me.
Yeah, maybe we should, start getting back out there and educating people.
Yeah.
On drugs. So.
And then when they say the side effects, they say them like real fast. And then sometimes when you can hear them, you're like, oh, damn, I'll just stick with whatever I have. Mm-hmm. Those side effects sound pretty scary.
Yeah.
Good grief. But I also think that, like, if you are traveling to an area, I mean, my first thing would have been to Google, what the heck is this on me? I mean, because didn't we Google too, ticks are out west? Because didn't we discuss that? But they just carry a different, like here they carry Lyme's disease, but they carry some kind of mountain fever or something out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're not as prevalent out there, essentially.
Which is wild because there's so much wildlife.
Yeah, but they thrive in the moist.
There really isn't a lot of woods there.
Yeah, and it's so dry.
Yeah, and it's not real thick like it is here.
In the summertime, anyway, it's very dry.
Yeah, for sure. Very dry.
So, here, with all the humidity and then, half the time you can't cut your grass for fucking 2 weeks because all the rain we fucking get.
I know. April showers bring May flowers. I'll tell you, May better bring the sunshine too. Let's go.
Yeah, it doesn't really look, well, I guess it's 7:30 now.
It was cold this whole weekend.
Yeah, it was chilly.
Back to work. Here comes the sun. Do-do-do-do. And it's going to be nice and sunny. Oh, well. Maybe that's like things to come. You know what I mean? Things to look forward to.
Yeah.
The sun.
Exactly.
The heat.
Exactly. So that's our public service announcement.
Yeah.
For this weekend. Watch a couple of shows if you can. Educate yourself on the painkillers. Question, if your doctor's going to prescribe you a painkiller, question them on it. Just be mindful of what's going into your body because it's
something like that it's not just life changing in a positive way that you're gonna get away from your pain. It could be very negative, life changing in a negative.
Yep. So, like I said, we'll be working on our rebrand in the next couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be changing that up. Let everybody know what it's called. Everybody that follows us I imagine it'll just be the same.
Yeah. Or just our name will change is all.
Yeah, will be easier to find.
Yeah.
With the rebrand. So, but I think with that, Mike and Stace signing off for the evening.
Yep. Have a great week, everyone. Bye.